Have you ever wondered what really happens behind closed doors when a narcissist is left completely alone? Picture for a moment that person who shines in public, who seems to charm everyone effortlessly, commanding every room with their confidence and superiority. Now imagine that same person showing a side of themselves so raw, so unsettling, that it's both disturbing and strangely sad. When no one's around to watch, the narcissist's real self begins to surface, revealing behaviors most people would never believe possible. Today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating yet disturbing sides of human psychology, the strange and often disgusting things narcissists tend to do when they're alone. This isn't about judging or mocking anyone. It's about understanding what drives these hidden patterns, the kind that grow out of years of insecurity, emotional manipulation, and a desperate need to stay in control. What you're about to learn might completely change how you see narcissism. In this deep dive, we'll explore these patterns through the lens of psychology, observation, and countless real-life stories. Stay with me until the end as we peel back the layers of narcissistic behavior and uncover what really happens in their private world. A world that might look glamorous and flawless from the outside, but behind closed doors. It's filled with dark habits, strange rituals, and disturbing emotional chaos. These private behaviors are both a defense mechanism and a cry for validation, revealing just how fractured and fragile a narcissist's inner life truly is. Welcome to this journey into the hidden and often unsettling actions narcissists display when no one is watching. Let's approach this topic not from judgment but from awareness and curiosity, because seeing what they do in solitude gives us powerful insight into what truly drives their manipulation, their hunger for praise, and their constant inner conflict. Before we begin, take a moment to support this work by subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it with others who might need to understand these patterns. By doing that, you help create a space that values truth, empathy, and healing. A space where we can bring light to behaviors often buried in the dark. Now, let's begin our exploration of what happens when a narcissist no longer has an audience. When they are alone, the constant flow of validation they depend on disappears. What's left is a silent battle between their public mask and their private self, and it's in that quiet where their most unsettling habits begin to show. The first thing to understand is their strange relationship with their own reflection. When left alone, many narcissists take part in what can only be called a ritual of self-admiration. They may spend long periods staring into mirrors, not just checking their appearance, but actually performing for themselves. They might whisper self-praise, criticize their smallest flaws, recite affirmations, or record videos and photos to review later. To others, it might look ridiculous, even pitiful, but for the narcissist, this is vital. The mirror becomes their silent audience, their substitute for the admiration they crave but cannot live without. When no one else is there to boost their ego, they turn inward, creating a loop of endless self-focus. It's a strange and obsessive act that reveals how fragile their self-worth really is. Psychological research has long shown that narcissists need constant validation to maintain their sense of worth. The mirror becomes their lifeline, a tool to preserve the illusion of perfection even when the world isn't watching. The endless grooming, posing, or self-flattery might appear vain, but it's actually a desperate effort to hold together a collapsing identity built entirely on praise and control. Once the mirror ritual ends, another unsettling behavior begins. Many narcissists talk to themselves, switching between self-glorification and self-hatred. This isn't gentle reflection, it's a private performance filled with contradictions. One moment they brag about their brilliance, power, or beauty. The next, they tear themselves apart for minor failures or imagined insults. Some even talk about themselves in the third person, as though they're both the hero and the critic in their own twisted narrative. It sounds strange, but it's surprisingly common. It reveals the truth they try so hard to hide, that their confidence is just a mask covering deep insecurity. Psychologists describe this as a war between their ideal self, the perfect image they try to show the world, and their real self. The part they secretly despise. When they're alone, there's no one to distract them from that battle. So they argue with themselves, flatter themselves, and tear themselves apart, all in the same breath. It's both sad and disturbing because it shows just how unstable their inner world truly is. But it doesn't stop there. In today's digital world, many narcissists replace real life validation with virtual admiration. When alone, they often spend hours scrolling through social media, watching how others react to their posts and comparing themselves with everyone else. They check old photos, reread comments, count likes and shares, and even stalk the profiles of those who once admired or criticized them. This becomes an addiction, a toxic loop of hope and disappointment. Every notification gives them a rush of excitement. Every lack of response feels like rejection. And since their self-worth depends so heavily on external praise, they become trapped in this endless cycle of scrolling and emotional chaos. Research shows that social media can be especially harmful for narcissistic individuals because it feeds exactly what they crave: attention, envy, and control, while deepening the emptiness they're trying to escape. So, when a narcissist is alone, their phone becomes their new mirror, and their endless scrolling becomes a silent form of self-punishment. Another dark and deeply unsettling behavior is their obsession with revenge fantasies. When left alone, narcissists often replay past humiliations or rejections and imagine ways to regain power. These fantasies can become extremely detailed. They picture confrontations, victories, or even the suffering of the people they blame. Some write these fantasies down or record angry voice memos that no one will ever hear. These private outbursts of rage give them a false sense of control when they feel powerless. Psychological studies show that narcissists are highly sensitive to criticism and rejection, and their anger doesn't fade easily. When they're alone and no longer pretending to be calm, that buried rage rises up and festers, creating obsessive thoughts. These revenge fantasies might never be acted upon, but they reveal how much bitterness lies behind their charm. What makes them so frightening is how detached from reality they often are. The narcissist rewrites events in their mind until they're both the victim and the hero. This distorted inner story protects their ego, but it pushes them even further away from reality. When the need for control collides with the fear of failure, their private world becomes a war zone. Their solitude, which could be a space for peace or reflection, turns into a stage for self-worship, rage, and mental rehearsals of imaginary victories. It's a painful cycle most narcissists never escape because they can't admit it's happening. Another destructive pattern is their habit of reliving old wounds. Many narcissists are trapped in a cycle of remembering every insult, rejection, or criticism they've ever faced. They scroll through old messages, rewatch past videos, or write down every perceived injustice in obsessive detail. This isn't reflection, it's emotional self-torture. By keeping their old pain alive, they give themselves proof that they're always the victim. Psychological studies call this rumination, a cycle of negative thinking that makes every memory of rejection grow larger and more painful. For narcissists, this self-inflicted suffering becomes a twisted kind of validation. It allows them to maintain the story that the world is cruel and they're the ones who have been wronged. Even though this belief is false, it becomes a central part of their identity. Finally, there's one more disturbing behavior: private self-glorification through secret rituals and exaggerated self-talk. When no one's watching, narcissists often perform little routines meant to boost their fragile ego. They might gaze at themselves in the mirror, give themselves compliments, or arrange their surroundings to match the image they want to project. Sometimes they drift into vivid fantasies about success, revenge, or future recognition. Their self-talk sounds confident but carries an undertone of fear and doubt. The need to keep proving their worth becomes like an addiction, something they can't stop. Every small action feels like evidence of their importance, yet every moment of quiet reminds them of their emptiness. This private self-worship may seem absurd to others, but it's a sign of deep emotional damage and self-deception. It shows how completely their inner world is built on illusion. When we look at all these behaviors, constant self-admiration, inner conflict, obsessive online scrolling, revenge fantasies, rumination, and ritualistic self-glorification, we see that these are not random quirks. They are signs of deep emotional pain and instability. Each of these actions reveals a mind caught between a public mask and private torment. From a psychological point of view, these are coping mechanisms, patterns formed from years of rejection, insecurity, and unmet needs for love and validation. Clinical research shows that people with narcissistic traits often experience intense emotional chaos when they're alone. These private behaviors are the raw, unfiltered reflections of that suffering. While they may seem awful, they're not signs of evil. They're expressions of unresolved pain. Behind the arrogance and control lies a person terrified of being insignificant. Understanding these behaviors gives us not only empathy, but also protection. If you're close to someone who displays these private habits, remember it's not about you. Their actions come from their own inner chaos. Setting boundaries, seeking help, or even walking away can be powerful acts of self-care. By protecting your peace, you help create a world that understands how trauma and insecurity can twist behavior. In the end, these 6 disturbing things narcissists do when they're alone: excessive self-admiration, conflicted self-talk, obsessive social media behavior, revenge fantasies, rumination, and ritualistic self-worship reveal the messy truth behind the mask. They show a hidden world filled with restlessness, insecurity, and pain. These aren't just odd behaviors. They're echoes of a lifetime spent chasing control and validation. They remind us that every action, even the most unpleasant, comes from the unbearable pressure of maintaining a false self-image. By shedding light on these hidden patterns, we gain not only a clearer understanding of narcissism, but also the strength to protect and heal ourselves from its effects. Thank you for joining me in this deep exploration of what narcissists do when they're alone. If this helped you see these behaviors more clearly, please subscribe, like, and share this video with others who might benefit. Your support helps grow a community built on empathy, understanding, and emotional healing. I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below so we can keep this conversation alive. Together, we can continue to uncover the link between trauma, self-image, and the hidden rituals of those who hide behind the mask of superiority.